Alright, so in today's video we're going to be showing you the proper techniques on how to solder without getting any leaks. Alright, welcome to the Plumbing Gurus. My name is Karsten, and on this channel we're looking to save you money and keep you informed on all the proper plumbing practices. Alright, so if you guys are new to soldering and you don't know what tools you're going to need, maybe consider checking this link out before getting into this. Alright, so in this video today we're going to be showing you guys, I have a vise here inside my garage. We're not on a real job site. Later in another video we will be showing more of a detailed type of scenario where it'll be more difficult, but for now it's more of a beginner type of video. We're just going to show you the fundamentals and the basics of how to cut and solder pipe. Alright, so if you're in a scenario where you've already measured your pipe and you need to cut it, so the first thing you want to do, you got to take your cutter, say you've marked it with a marker. Get your pipe cutter over top of it. You don't want to tighten this too hard. I see a lot of young apprentices and other people that have little experience in cutting pipe. They reef this part too tight to begin with. So you're just going to kind of want to, nice and loose, just to score it. And then just do a couple rounds and then give it another tiny little turn, little quarter turns, two turns, and then you can kind of feel when it's about to cut. And then you can just kind of break it off like that. And the next thing you want to do is ream the pipe. And the reason we ream it is because there's, I'm not sure if you can quite see in there, but there's a lip on the inside from the pipe cutter that made this inside lip. We ream it so that when the water flows through it, it just takes the burr off of there. So when the water's flowing through, you don't get that turbulent flow and creating pinholes down the road. It makes the copper last longer. Then we're going to want to clean it. This part is probably the most important part of soldering. You want this copper to be shiny, because if you don't have clean copper and a good clean flux on there, you will not get the proper capillary action and you'll get leaks. So the more time you can spend on actually cleaning the copper and doing this part right, the easier it will be when it comes to actually soldering it. Same thing with the fitting. So when you solder or clean the fitting, you want to make sure you do a good job. Like, don't just do it a couple times. You want to look inside it and make sure it's actually just as clean as the pipe there. I cannot stress enough about how important it actually is to clean the copper properly and blow out any of the dust and dirt that's in there. You don't want any of that. You want this to be nice and clean. Nice clean copper. So the next thing we would do is now flux it. You don't need, a lot of people say, like, you know, put tons of flux on, whatever. You just need a nice thin layer. Too much flux can actually make it worse, so you don't want it dripping out all over the place and making it a mess on the inside. So you're going to want to flux the inside of the fitting, flux the outside of the pipe, put the fitting on top. And then what I usually like to do is after I've fluxed it, I'll just clean off any excess flux so that you can get a nice clean solder job after. And you want to have a rag so you can clean the solder and make it look pretty after. So now we get into the torch. So before I do it, I'm just going to kind of explain. A lot of times with 1/2 inch, like, what they tell you is you're going to want to get an even heat source around the whole fitting. But with 1/2 inch, it's not a huge deal if you just heat the bottom and then hit the solder on the other side and let it suck around. If you get into the bigger pipes, you do want to actually heat the entire fitting evenly. And when you do hit the solder, you want to have the torch on the opposite side of the solder no matter where you are. So if you're soldering over here, you want the torch over here. If you're soldering on top, you want the torch on the bottom. But in 1/2 inch, because it's so small, we can just kind of heat one space and heat the whole fitting at once. And we just knock off that little hanger there. Take our rag, give it a second to cool down, because if you do it right away, it's not good. We just give it a little wipe. Got yourself a nice pretty solder joint. Pretty much guaranteed no leaks right there. Alright, so there's our nice clean solder joint. A lot of times people will think that they need to put a ton of solder on there and then it makes a huge mess, and in our opinions it just it doesn't look professional. So we like to have that nice clean look. You clean it off with a rag later, and even if you hit it with some flux and then wipe it with a rag, it makes it have that nice shiny look. One thing I forgot to tell you guys was when you hit it with the solder, when you have the torch underneath and you hit it with the solder, once it makes that full suck all the way around, you get that clean, you can see that there's solder cleanly around everywhere. That's all you need. You don't really need it to be everywhere. And sometimes you can look inside the fitting and actually make sure you see it, but you don't always have that opportunity to see that. But this is pretty much what your solder joints should look like, and you're pretty much guaranteed to not have a leak right there.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching Karsten's video on how to solder properly without leaks. We'd like to give a shout out to all the subscribers we have. Thank you very much. It keeps us motivated to create more videos just like this one, keep you guys all informed on all the proper plumbing practices. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button, and everyone stay tuned. We'll see you guys on the next one.